Let's start with the truth. If you've noticed your legs feeling weaker, stairs becoming more of a challenge, or walks you once found effortless now feel like a strain, you may have been told that's just aging. But that's not the whole story. It's not just age, it's biology, it's behavior. And the good news is it's reversible. There is a silent but powerful principle in neuroscience and human physiology: use it or lose it. And this applies profoundly to the motor units in your legs. Now let's decode what's really going on inside your body. From your brain to your spine and down to your muscles, you're wired for strength. Inside your central nervous system, there are motor neurons, highways for movement signals. These neurons send electrical impulses from the brain to your muscle fibers, instructing them to contract, fire, and generate force. But here's the catch. If these pathways are not being activated often enough or with enough intensity, they begin to atrophy. And that's not a function of aging, it's a function of disuse. When you don't challenge your muscles, your brain begins to prune back the neurological connections that aren't being used. That's neuroplasticity. The same mechanism that allows you to learn and adapt can also make you weaker if you're not sending the right signals. So when people say I'm getting old, what they often mean is I've stopped moving with intensity. They've stopped doing squats. They've stopped sprinting. They've stopped training the full range of motion. And over time, the brain decides this isn't necessary anymore, and the process accelerates. Let's break this down into the biological layers that matter. First, muscle fiber recruitment. Your muscles are composed of two primary types of fibers: slow twitch and fast twitch. Slow twitch fibers handle endurance. Fast twitch fibers are your strength and power system. As you age, especially if you become sedentary, the nervous system starts to deactivate fast twitch fibers. These are the ones you need to lift, to jump, to rise from a chair, to run. You don't lose these fibers just because you're aging. You lose them because you stop using them. You can be 70, 80, 90 years old and still regenerate these fibers with resistance training and neural activation. There's compelling research from leading physiology labs that show that strength gains in older adults often come not just from muscle growth, but from improved neural efficiency. In other words, your brain gets better at firing your muscles. It rewires. It re-engages. Second, blood flow and inflammation. As you become more sedentary, blood flow to the lower body diminishes. Muscles become underoxygenated. Inflammation increases. Capillaries, the tiny blood vessels feeding your tissues, begin to close off. But movement reactivates this system. When you walk briskly, when you load your muscles, you stimulate nitric oxide, a molecule that expands blood vessels, increases circulation, and sends a signal. These tissues matter. If you've been losing strength in your legs, it's not because your body is failing you, it's because your body is adapting to what you're asking of it. If you sit, it prepares you to be good at sitting. If you lift, it prepares you to be strong. If you challenge your balance, your coordination, your speed, it adapts accordingly. Third, cortical mapping. This is where the brain becomes even more interesting. There's a region in your brain, the motor cortex, that holds a map of your body. This map is constantly being updated. When you don't use a muscle group, especially a large one like your quads, hamstrings, or glutes, the brain's representation of that area begins to fade. This isn't metaphor, it's measurable. Neural imaging studies show that the more active a body part is, the more space it occupies in the motor cortex. So what happens if you don't train your legs? They vanish from the map, not literally, but neurologically. And what's off the map, you can't control as well. You can't recruit it with the same force. The coordination suffers, the power output drops, and suddenly you feel like you're getting old. But the truth is, you've just let the map shrink. The antidote: neuroplastic engagement. This is the most powerful phrase you can take away from this. Train your legs as if they still matter, and the brain will remember that they do. This is why strength training in later life is not optional, it's essential. It's why resistance training, even at low volume but high intent, restores not just muscle but brain function. The act of lifting your body, of stepping up, of stabilizing during lunges or squats, it rewires your brain. It increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BENF, a molecule that supports learning, memory, and plasticity. Fourth, your hormonal environment. Let's talk about your endocrine system. Testosterone, growth hormone, IGF-1, these are anabolic hormones. They help you build and preserve muscle. While it's true that levels decline with age, they don't disappear. And here's what's fascinating: studies show that the most powerful natural stimulus for maintaining and increasing these hormones is lower body compound movement. Heavy squats, deadlifts, sprinting, walking up hills. These movements activate large muscle groups, and that activation tells your endocrine system this body needs to stay strong. If you lose strength in your legs, the hormonal cascade weakens. But if you reverse the process, if you train the legs, stress them, challenge them, you reignite the hormonal machinery. Fifth, your mindset. The biggest myth about aging is the belief that decline is inevitable. That strength, power, balance, and mobility are things of youth, that you can't regain what's been lost. This belief is not just wrong, it's dangerous, because it informs behavior, and behavior shapes biology. There's a powerful study in the field of psychophysiology showing that individuals who believe physical decline is not inevitable age significantly slower at the molecular level. Why? Because belief changes behavior. Belief affects how you move, how you eat, how you train. And when behavior changes, biology adapts. So if you're losing strength in your legs, ask yourself, what am I doing to challenge them? What am I doing to signal to my brain that these muscles still matter? This isn't about becoming a bodybuilder. It's about reclaiming your brain-body connection. It's about remembering that your nervous system is trainable, that your muscles respond to attention, that your blood flow adapts to challenge, that your hormones listen to load, and that your brain rewires based on what you do repeatedly. That's the science. But now, here's the call to action. Don't wait. Don't wait. Don't surrender to myths about aging. Get up, move, train your legs, use your brain, demand more from your nervous system. Challenge your coordination, your balance, your endurance, because weakness is not your destiny. And aging is not the enemy, disuse is. You are still capable. You are still adaptable. And the moment you decide to treat your legs like they still matter, they will respond. Your brain will respond. Your whole system will reawaken. Strength is still available to you, but it's up to you to send the signal. You're not losing strength because you're aging, you're losing it because you're not using it. That sentence may go against everything you've been told. It may cut across the advice of family, society, even some health professionals. But it is rooted in hard science, observable biology, and undeniable human behavior. The truth is, decline is not your destiny, disuse is. And until you understand the power of that statement, you will continue to let your body negotiate with gravity instead of command it. Every single time you sit in a chair for hours without getting up, your body takes notes. Your nervous system logs that data. Your muscles adjust their tone. Your circulation shifts. And most critically, your brain, your command center, begins to prune away the motor. Connections that are no longer being used. The brain is efficient. It doesn't waste resources. It doesn't preserve circuits that aren't firing. And if your legs are no longer being challenged, the communication between your brain and your body begins to fade. You stop recruiting the full spectrum of muscle fibers. You stop engaging the neuromuscular junctions at full capacity. And day by day, the system becomes quieter, slower, weaker. People call that aging. But it's not aging. It's adaptation to a low-demand environment. Muscle is not maintained by accident. It is preserved and enhanced through tension, load, repetition, and intent. When you stop putting your muscles under stress, when you stop forcing your nervous system to coordinate complex movement, the entire ecosystem begins to regress. But it's not because your body is broken. It's because your body is obedient. It adapts to the signals you give it. And if the signal is inactivity, your biology assumes that strength is no longer needed. That's why the statement "use it or lose it" isn't motivational fluff, it's neurological fact. Let's go deeper. The muscles in your legs, your quads, hamstrings, glutes, calves are not just tissue. They are organs of movement, metabolism, and hormonal communication. When you walk, when you run, when you squat, you activate motor units, bundles of muscle fibers attached to motor neurons. These units are controlled by the central nervous system. And the only way they remain efficient and powerful is by being recruited repeatedly and with intensity. The less often you use them, the more quickly they are decommissioned. Imagine a symphony orchestra. If half the musicians stop showing up to practice, the music gets weak. The same is true with your motor units. If you're not training them, firing them, challenging them, they stop showing up. And when that happens, your legs feel heavier. You lose your balance more easily. Your stamina drops. And you tell yourself you're getting old, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is you're becoming neurologically disengaged from your own body. And unless you reverse that trend, your body will continue to optimize for stillness, not movement. The good news is this: you can reverse it. You can restore strength. You can rebuild coordination. And you can reestablish the neural dominance you once had, because the human body is not static, it's plastic. It changes, it learns, it recovers, it adapts. Every time you perform a squat, you send a signal to your brain that this motion matters. Every time you engage in a walk with speed and intention, your cardiovascular system wakes up. Your lungs stretch wider, your heart pumps harder, your blood vessels dilate, and deep inside your cells, mitochondria begin to multiply. Those are the engines of energy, and they only stay active when the body is in motion. When people stop moving, mitochondria begin to die off. Muscle mass shrinks, insulin sensitivity drops, fatigue sets in, depression creeps in. And again, we blame age. but the root cause is disuse. Leg strength is the foundation of functional independence. It determines how easily you get up from a chair, climb stairs, balance on uneven ground, or catch yourself when you. Falling is one of the leading causes of injury and death among older adults. But falling doesn't begin at the moment of imbalance. It begins years earlier when people stop training their legs, when they stop sprinting, jumping, lunging, and climbing, when they stop playing, when they stop testing their boundaries. The body becomes unfamiliar with instability, and the brain forgets how to respond. That forgetfulness is learned. It's trained through avoidance, but the reverse is also true. You can train resilience, you can train balance, you can retrain your nervous system to recruit every ounce of strength your body was designed to express. Even if you're 60, 70, or 8, your muscles will respond. Your brain will adapt. Your bones will strengthen. You just have to give them a reason. That reason is movement. Deliberate, consistent, challenging movement. You don't need to lift massive weights, but you do need to lift. You need to stand on one leg. You need to climb stairs 2 at a time. You need to perform air squats in your living room until your thighs burn. You need to walk up hills instead of around them. You need to sprint at 70% of your capacity once in a while, not for speed, but for stimulation. Because what you stimulate, you strengthen. We live in a world that encourages comfort. Chairs, elevators, escalators, cars, screens, everything is designed to reduce movement. But your biology wasn't designed for comfort. It was designed for challenge, for locomotion, for adaptation. And if you deny it that challenge, it will shrink in every direction: muscles, mitochondria, brain matter, hormones. Strength is not a gift. It is a decision. A daily one. You must decide to take the stairs. You must decide to sit less. You must decide to walk farther, to move more often, to train harder than you feel like, because strength doesn't come from how you feel. It comes from what you do consistently, despite how you feel. When you reclaim your leg strength, you reclaim your posture. You reclaim your gait. You reclaim your confidence. Because there's something powerful about knowing your legs can carry you not just across a room, but through adversity. And here's a truth worth tattooing on your brain. Muscle is anti-aging medicine. Every pound of muscle you gain or preserve improves your metabolic health, your insulin sensitivity, your immune response, and your mental state. Muscle isn't just aesthetic, it's life-preserving. And again, the biggest myth of all is that muscle loss is inevitable with age. That is not what the science says. The science says that muscle loss is inevitable with inactivity. But even decades of loss can be reversed with consistent, strategic training. You may have lost strength over the years, but you haven't lost your ability to rebuild it. So stop telling yourself that you're getting old. Start telling yourself the truth, that you've been inactive, that you've let your nervous system atrophy, that you've stopped using the full range of your body, and that today, that ends. Because the moment you start using your legs again with intensity, with frequency, with commitment, you stop the decline. You start the ascent. You reawaken the circuits. You reignite the power. And over time, you'll discover something profound, that your body was never broken. It was just waiting on you to remember who you are. You're not losing strength because you're aging. You're losing it because you're not using it. So use it. And watch your body respond with the force of a system that was built to move, built to carry, built to conquer. Not just once, but over and over, as long as you're willing to do the work. Strength loss begins in the brain, not the muscle. This challenges what most people believe, because when we think of losing strength, we immediately picture shrinking muscles, thinner legs, weaker arms, or a body that struggles under weight it once handled easily. But what you see in the mirror is just the final output. The real loss begins long before that in the control center of the human body, the brain. You are not a machine made of flesh. You are a living, breathing network of electrical circuits, chemical messengers, and neuromuscular pathways that govern movement. And strength is not just how much muscle you have, it's how effectively your brain can communicate with those muscles. Strength is coordination. Strength is recruitment. Strength is the synchronized firestorm of neurons telling your body, lift this, move that, stabilize here. It all begins in the nervous system. Your central nervous system controls every muscular contraction. Every time you pick something up, every time you stand, every time you move, your brain is sending signals through your spinal cord into motor neurons, down to muscle fibers. That neural drive, how fast, how strong, and how consistently those signals are sent determines how much force your body can produce. And when the neural drive slows down, weakens, or fades, so does your strength. Now here's where most people miss it. Long before your muscle tissue begins to atrophy, your brain begins to reduce its output. It stops recruiting as many muscle fibers. It stops activating the fast twitch fibers that are responsible for explosive strength. It becomes lazy in a sense, opting for less effort, less engagement, less coordination. Why? Because of what you're not doing? Because of what you're not demanding from it? The motor cortex in your brain is the area responsible for voluntary movement. It contains a map of your entire body, your arms, your legs, your fingers, your face. And like any map, the parts you use most are drawn in greater detail. If you stop training your legs, if you stop challenging your body, the brain starts redrawing that map. It reallocates resources, it prunes away the circuits that are no longer needed. It literally shrinks the neurological representation of your legs. Think about that. Your brain starts to forget how to use your body, not because of age, but because of disuse. And once the signal weakens, the muscle follows. That's why strength loss begins in the brain. The decline is upstream. The muscle is only downstream. You can't fix what's downstream if you ignore what's happening at the source. When you were a child, your brain was in constant dialogue with your body. Running, jumping, climbing, falling, getting back up, all of it kept your neural circuits sharp. Every movement created feedback. Every challenge reinforced the motor map. You didn't just build muscle, you built precision. But over time, as you moved less, as you sat more, as you avoided challenge, the signals faded. The feedback loop weakened. The map began to blur. That blurring affects everything: balance, coordination, reaction time, stability. And that's the scary part. Strength isn't just about lifting heavy. It's about your brain knowing exactly how to recruit the right muscle at the right time, with the right amount of force. When that coordination is lost, your body doesn't just feel weaker, it becomes inefficient. Movements become sloppy, you lose fluidity, you become more prone to injury. Not because your body can't handle stress, but because your brain no longer knows how to direct it. This is why neurologists and physiologists often refer to strength training as brain training. Because when you lift a weight, your brain has to calculate 1,000 variables in real time: angle, velocity, torque, joint stabilization, opposing force, and feedback. That kind of complexity forces the nervous system to engage, and that engagement's a signal: keep this system alive. We need it. Your nervous system is adaptable. It's plastic, and that's both a gift and a warning. If you don't use it, it will change in the wrong direction. It will downregulate. But if you challenge it, if you apply resistance, speed, and control, it will upgrade. It will regenerate. The circuits will grow back stronger, faster, more precise. And when that happens, the muscle follows. Always. It's easy to look in the mirror and assume that strength is about size. But real strength lives in the milliseconds before the movement. It lives in the pre-activation, in the way your brain anticipates and executes force. That's where the battle is won or lost. And the people who age with power, the people who stay upright, mobile, and resilient, are the ones who continue to train their brains through their bodies. This is also why people can lose strength after being bedridden, even if they don't lose much muscle mass. Because lying in bed dulls the motor pathways. It disconnects the brain from the body. After days or weeks of inactivity, people try to stand and suddenly feel weak, not because the muscles are gone, but because the signals are quiet. The circuit hasn't been used. The brain has stopped recruiting those fibers. It's like trying to play a piano with frozen fingers. The keys are there, but you can't make the music. The antidote to this isn't more time in the gym, it's smarter time. Movements that require coordination, balance, and full body engagement are the key. Deadlifts, squats, lunges, loaded carries, these don't just build muscle. They activate the neural networks. They require the brain to fire on all cylinders. They demand control and intent. And that intent rewires the system. You don't need a laboratory to measure neural engagement. You feel it in the movements that demand your focus. When you have to brace your core, align your spine, grip the floor with your toes, and drive through your heels, all while keeping perfect posture, your nervous system is awake. That kind of training builds a different kind of strength, not just brute force, but intelligent force. This also explains why elite athletes train movement patterns, not just muscles. Because the brain doesn't think in terms of biceps and quads, it thinks in terms of motion: push, pull, jump, land, twist, run. The more complex the movement, the more neural activation is required. And the more often you train those patterns, the more efficient your brain becomes at recruiting the right muscles in the right sequence with the right intensity. Efficiency is power. When your nervous system is optimized, your strength output goes up, even if your muscle size stays the same. Because strength is not just about capacity, it's about access. Your brain is the gatekeeper to that access. And if you train the gatekeeper, the rest follows. The tragedy is that most people stop training their nervous system without even realizing it. They settle into routines that are comfortable. Machines that guide the movement. Cardio that never changes. Exercises that avoid complexity. And over time, the brain adapts by dialing down its output. There's no need for high-level coordination so the circuits go dark, and with them, strength disappears. But it doesn't have to stay that way because neuroplasticity works both ways. You can reactivate those pathways. You can retrain the signal. You can rebuild strength from the inside out. It starts with intent. It starts with movement. It starts with reminding your brain that this body is still alive, still capable, still worthy of full activation. Even the elderly, those in their 70s, 80s, and beyond, can regain lost strength by focusing on neural engagement. Studies have shown that balance training, resistance exercises, and power drills dramatically improve strength and function, even without significant increases in muscle size. That's because the brain is learning to communicate again. The circuits are firing. The map is being redrawn. That's what you're capable of. No matter how long you've been inactive, no matter how weak you feel, no matter what the calendar says about your age, strength begins in the brain. And your brain is ready to be trained. You just have to give it the chance. Every time you pick up a weight, every time you push against resistance, every time you move with focus and control, you are teaching your brain to remember. You are reestablishing the connection between mind and muscle. You are reminding your body that you still own it. And once that reminder takes hold, everything changes. The signals get faster. The muscles contract harder. The movements get cleaner. You regain not just strength, but confidence. Not just power, but purpose. Because the body follows the brain, and the brain follows the stimulus you give it. So give it the right signal. One of challenge, one of growth, one of full engagement. Strength loss begins in the brain, but so does strength gain. Start there, and the rest will follow. Movement is medicine. It rewires your brain, restores hormones, and reverses physical decline. This statement isn't poetic, it's biologically true. Human beings are not designed for stillness. We are wired for movement at every level, neurologically, chemically, and cellularly. Your brain doesn't just tolerate motion, it thrives on it. Your hormones don't just respond to activity, they depend on it. And your body doesn't just benefit from movement, it begins to repair itself through it. Consider the way your nervous system is structured. It evolved in a world where survival demanded constant physical engagement, climbing, running, lifting, chasing, building. The human brain is 2% of your body weight, but consumes over 20% of your energy, and one of its most powerful regulators is movement. When you move with intensity and coordination, your brain lights up. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BENF, often called miracle growth of the brain, gets released. BENF enhances neuroplasticity, strengthens existing neural connections, and promotes the formation of new ones. This means movement literally makes your brain more adaptable, more resilient, more alive. In fact, research has shown that people who engage in regular, structured movement not only maintain better cognitive function as they age, but also generate new neurons in regions like the hippocampus, areas associated with memory and learning. This is not abstract theory. This is hard biology. Your body and mind form a loop. When your body moves, your brain doesn't just observe, it responds, adapts, and transforms. That's the neurological power of movement. Now look at hormones. Movement doesn't just influence neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, which govern mood, motivation, and pleasure. It also profoundly impacts systemic hormones that regulate strength, energy recovery, and longevity. Take testosterone, for example. This hormone isn't just about masculinity, it's a critical driver of muscle protein synthesis, bone density, and metabolic function. Intense resistance training, especially compound lifts like squats, deadlifts, and sprints, has been proven to elevate natural testosterone production. Not only does this support physical performance, but it also sharpens focus, heightens drive, and strengthens emotional resilience. Then there's growth hormone, which plays a key role in tissue repair, muscle development, and fat metabolism. High-intensity interval training, HIIT, and resistance training stimulate its release. It's your body's internal rejuvenator. Most people believe growth hormone only matters in youth, but movement allows you to tap into its benefits well into older age, counteracting the normal decline associated with time. And let's not forget insulin sensitivity. With every contraction of skeletal muscle, your body becomes more efficient at using glucose, lowering blood sugar, and reducing the chronic inflammation that drives so many age-related diseases. Movement essentially acts as a natural insulin mimetic. It allows your body to process fuel without the damaging spikes and crashes that come from inactivity. This has profound implications for everything from brain health to cardiovascular function. Even cortisol, often thought of as the stress hormone, is regulated by movement. Chronic stress elevates cortisol and leads to breakdown of tissue, immune function, and cognition. But smart movement, particularly rhythmic and aerobic, can recalibrate the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis, helping your body better manage stress, release it through action, and reset its baseline. There's no pill that can do all of this. No supplement that mimics the layered, multifaceted cascade of benefits that occur when you move with purpose. Movement isn't just medicine, it's the original medicine. And in today's sedentary world, it's the most underused. The tragedy is that so many people have been conditioned to think of movement as punishment. Exercise becomes a chore, a burden, something done to correct a mistake, or chase an aesthetic. But the human body doesn't respond to guilt, it responds to necessity and intention. When movement is approached as medicine, it stops being about burn and starts being about balance. It stops being about ego and starts being about alignment of brain, body, and biology. Movement is not limited to weightlifting or running. It's about engaging your body in a way that demands attention, coordination, effort, and presence. Walking briskly through nature, sprinting up hills, carrying weight over distance, balancing on one leg, jumping, crawling, climbing, rotating, all of it rewires your brain. Each novel motion engages new circuits. Each challenge forces adaptation. Each effort sends a signal to your entire physiology. Stay alive, stay sharp, stay strong. And this signal goes deep. It reaches your joints, your bones, your connective tissue. The skeletal system responds to mechanical load. It requires stress to grow and maintain density. Without it, bones weaken, joints stiffen, mobility declines. Movement is how you feed the structure of your body. Every time your foot strikes the ground or your hands grip an object, your skeleton gets a message: build, repair, strengthen. Then there's the lymphatic system, your body's waste removal highway. It doesn't have a pump like the heart. It depends on movement. Without motion, lymph stagnates, toxins accumulate, immune function drops. But every time you move, stretch, jump, or twist, you're activating that system, allowing it to flush out cellular debris and restore balance at the deepest level. Movement is also one of the most potent antidepressants known to science. Within minutes of exercise, the brain begins producing endorphins, natural opioids that elevate mood, reduce pain, and increase feelings of well-being. These aren't placebo effects. They are real, measurable shifts in brain chemistry that can rival pharmaceutical interventions. Regular movement also increases levels of anandamide, the so-called bliss molecule, which activates the same receptors as theta, providing a natural sense of calm and clarity. And here's the kicker: you don't need hours to access these benefits. Short, intentional, frequent bouts of movement have been shown to be more effective for long-term brain and body health than sporadic long sessions. A few minutes of intensity practiced daily with intent and attention is enough to create lasting change. The key isn't quantity, it's consistency and quality. The modern lifestyle undermines all of this. Chairs, screens, and conveniences have created an illusion of comfort that is actually accelerating physical decline. When you stop moving, the brain rewires itself for passivity. The body stops circulating growth factors. Hormonal balance deteriorates, muscles shrink, bones weaken, fat accumulates, and mood crashes. None of this is because you're getting older. It's because the stimulus that once kept your system alive has been removed. The medicine has been withheld, but the reversal is just as powerful. The moment you begin to move, especially with intention, your body starts turning back the clock. Not in a magical way, but in a mechanical, biological way. You regain coordination. You produce more energy. Your sleep improves. Your appetite regulates. Your mood lifts. Your sense of purpose sharpens. All because you chose to move. Even diseases that we consider inevitable, neurodegeneration, sarcopenia, cardiovascular decline, are slowed and in many cases reversed by movement. Parkinson's patients who engage in high-intensity cycling regain coordination and control. Alzheimer's progression slows in individuals who walk daily. Strength training preserves brain volume in the elderly. The evidence isn't emerging, it's overwhelming. Your biology listens to your behavior, and movement is the loudest language it speaks. When you move with purpose, your body hears that message and responds with growth, healing, adaptation, and resilience. It's not about chasing youth, it's about sustaining vitality. It's about waking up the systems that were designed to serve you but have gone dormant through neglect. You don't need perfect form. You don't need a gym membership. You need to move with intent. Get down on the floor. Stand up without using your hands. Walk with weight. Stretch your spine. Challenge your balance. Pick up something heavy. Sprint upstairs. Twist, jump, carry, crawl. Engage your body like it was meant to be used, and you will. Activate the systems that keep you alive and thriving. Movement doesn't have to be loud or complex. It just has to be real, deliberate, uncomfortable enough to demand adaptation, and repeated often enough to create lasting change. This is how you rewire your brain. This is how you restore your hormones. This is how you reverse decline, not by running from aging, but by giving your body the signals it has always needed to remain strong, capable, and alive. Movement is medicine. Not metaphorically. Literally. Every joint, every neuron, every hormone responds to it. Your prescription is waiting, and it begins with your next step.